Okay, guys, we're joining it in action here. This potentially could be the last match here, depending on how this plays out. We have Jungle Cats versus Untitled, and ASL Shanks is leading his team here. They need to win this match. This is a drop zone now on a random map, and it looks like it's Twilight on Hoth. So this map is a lot of interior with some exterior surroundings, but this needs to be a victory for Untitled. Otherwise, newcomers Jungle Cats bringing it home. So we'll see what's going on here with our boys over at ASL. Looks like they're playing pretty aggressively by the looks of it. Still 0-0. And it looks like the pause in their favor at the moment, and they're doing everything they can to get an early lead on Jungle Cats because they know exactly what happens. Jungle Cats plays a good defensive game. They've got Dark Exile on their team. They can play that defensive game. So it's really important they get ahead of it because if Jungle Cats starts to pick up some points, they're going to hold it and then run the clock. And we've seen Jungle Cats use that strategy in past games. Running the clock is not something they're ashamed of doing. So let's see what we got here is we've got a little hitch here on Untitled. And he's working in tandem with a couple other members. That pod is not in their favor right now, so he's by himself. Little J is backing him up. Checking in with our boy Precision. They're hitting that. Now that pod's wedged in there. It's a pretty tricky spot. This map does have some interesting little quirks about it, this map. The pod is kind of wedged into a cavern area with a vertical access point. So, I mean, technically you can drop grenades, thermals down there, but it's just a weird spot for that pod to land. We'll see how our boys over at Jungle Cats are doing. Trying to switch over to some first-person action in a little bit here. It's a little disorienting where this pod is, so don't want to give anybody seizures here while we're watching this. It's quite a beautiful map, actually, but it's definitely visually a very distracting map.
The escape pod will soon be in our hands.
So it looks like they take an early lead, and this is critical now. This is where Shanks needs to do not underestimate, and there's the outside view that I was talking about. He cannot underestimate Jungle Cats at this point. If these guys get a lead, they play a great defensive game as well as an offensive game. They will hold that lead. That's pretty embarrassing, I'll tell you. Anyway, mapping out is never a high point in anybody's professional career. Gazelle is keeping an eye on that edge. See how Shanks handles that. He's back in the game now. Looking for that pod, and it looks like they're defending that pod. But again, that could switch. And again, another weird spot for these pods. This map definitely has some weird pod spawning areas. Darth Exile, here we are following our very good defensive player. And he's doing what he does best, hanging back and picking off those rushers. And it looks like they've taken the pod back. Shanks is going to make a pretty rough push here at this point. It looks like they've got boots on the ground, and it looks like it's now in their favor. This is a tug-of-war for a very badly placed pod. And it's got a good vantage. Shanks is definitely positioned to thin these guys out. You always got to keep an eye below you in this map because there's lots of little crevices and such. They're passing the halfway point on this, so unless Jungle Cat can get somebody in there pretty quick, we're going to tie this game up in about 10 seconds or less. Probably about 5 seconds. I see a jump pack coming in, but it's going to be too late for them to get someone in there. Great job on Untitled. Oh, he flipped it. He flipped it at the 1 second mark. That was just crazy. Probably pissed Shanks off, too. Anyway, it looks like they're well on their way to bringing it back. So it was a small victory for Jungle Cat, but still a victory nonetheless. Let's see if they can do that again. Otherwise, we're going to tie this one up. I got ahead of myself there. With 1 second left on that pod, they literally tied it up, or they literally flipped it. Here we go. Good job on Shanks, sniping that vantage, and they are going to tie it up. He is not going to let him do this again. Nice job on Shanks. Literally pistol whipped him to the ground. Get the heck out of my pod is what he was saying. So here we go. We're tied up here at the 9-minute mark, and a new pod is dropping. Let's jump over to Jungle Cats and see what they're doing. Gazelle and his team are playing the height advantage. Looks like this pod has landed outside, so it's going to be a little bit trickier to defend. You're not going to get as much cover as you want. You got some little dips in the crevices and that here, but it's a little bit more trickier. A little bit of hopping going on in the terrain, but don't see any of Untitled, but there we go. That was a double kill on each of them. They traded off on that one. I love the ragdoll physics in this game. Looking at Gazelle, he's supporting his team. Oh, no, this is not Gazelle. This is Botangi. Botangi! Our boy Botangi is just picking these guys off. Bubble Shield, though, is going to be tougher, but Melee takes him down. These guys are doing a good job, but it looks like Untitled got in there and flipped it. So these guys are going to have to wait their timer out all over again. But Botangi is a fan favorite and a team high scorer right now. Doing pretty good. Let's see how Gazelle is doing on his team. He's playing support like every good captain should. And it's just basically a big shooting gallery on this Hoth Plain top level. It's a lot different. It's almost like two maps in one. You've got the Hoth Plains and then you've got the caverns underneath, so it definitely means you got to change up your fighting style. Little Hitch just dropped thanks to Botangi. And hitting from a distance. And those bubble shields give them the chance to get up close, but they do have an expiration on them, and they do have a damage threshold. So see what ASL is doing over here.
Our tracking beacon has revealed the location of another escape pod. Capture it.
Little J is moving down below.
Imperials are taking that escape pod.
And we've got a thermal imploder here. Botangi's, I don't know what he's going to do with that just yet. Third pod is coming down. And this is where things can get a little messy for Untitled. We now have a 2... We have a 2-to-1 lead with Jungle Cats. And if they hold this and count that timer down, we got 7 minutes left. Shanks took it, and he's going to flip it. And Tricky silent. Moving in. No go. Let's take a look at Precision, see what he's doing in the back of his team. Untitled up. He's alone here in the cavern. He's defending this pod by himself, and they've got this pod. Yep. They have tied it up. This is going to be pretty intense, people. We got 6 minutes left. It's 2-on-2. We got 3 pods left to go. An infantry turret is going down. And it doesn't look like Untitled is going to give this puppy up anytime soon. New pod. Let's see where that's taking us. Other side of the caves. Don't mind it. The caves are beautiful. Take a few seconds to look at it. Ah, that's so nice. Okay, back to the action. See what Precision's doing to back these guys up from a distance. And the pod has switched, but Precision's going to flip it. And he's flipped it. So now we're looking at a pod in control on Untitled. And looks like Jungle Cats are pushing hard to make sure that doesn't stay the way it is. Here we're following Gazelle. Looks like that pod's going over to Untitled, and they've lost it. Untitled has officially taken the lead on this one. It is now 3-2 with 5 minutes left. Still lots of time to grab this next pod to tie it up, but if this is going to play out this way, we might be headed for a third match. Okay, some power-ups. They've got the pod. Let's go take a look and see what Shanks is doing. They've got it, and it has fallen out of their control. And we're about halfway on the Jungle Cats right now. Gazelle and his team is holding that pod. Just got to keep an eye behind them, but they're at the 3/4 mark. 5 seconds left to go approximately for this pod. They've got a good team surrounding it. We gotta keep an eye on their rear, but other than that, they are solid. And ASL gets the kill
Escape pod. We need to stop.
and flip the pod. They stopped Jungle Cats from getting the pod at the last second. Great play by ASL. And it looks like Jungle is grabbing that pod again. Botangi, all-star player for Jungle Cats. Hopping around, that first-person view is kind of disorienting. Gonna pull back here and have a look at see. A little bit better angle here from above the cave. So you guys are gonna see everything pile in. We've got 3 Jungle Cats, and they've tied it up. 4 minutes left to go, and the Jungle Cats have tied it up. They're grabbing their power-ups before moving on to the next one.
Another pod.
And let's see where Shanks and team are. Little Hitch is probably already on his way over. And Shanks is falling into a crevice, never a good thing. Here we go. And it looks like they got an early claim on this pod. We're down to 3 minutes with a score that's tied, and it looks like Untitled's grabbing this pod. They just need to hold this. Let's see what happens. We got 3 minutes left, people. And it looks like Jungle Cats are moving in. Botangi, he's leading the charge. And it looks like they flipped the pod. And they've got about 4 guys down below there that are running it. And he's playing pretty aggressive. He's up at the front end, not taking any chances. He wants to cut them off before they get too close to the pod. We'll pull back here and see what's happening at the pod. Yeah, and we've got Untitled dropping in from above. Let's see how well these Jungle Cats handle those surprises. Nice. One more player. They deal quick death to them. More Untitles are dropping in from that spot above them. Like I said, there's these crevices and such. And it looks like Jungle Cats take that pod. It is now a 4-3 game. And we've got 2 minutes left on the timer. Untitled needs to make a move, and they need to do it quick. Otherwise, we might have a champion here today. We'll zoom over and see how Little J is doing on Untitled's team. Follow precision. Getting dropped. Shanks next up. It's getting him in there. They need to defend that pod to get this tied up. Currently they're trend, and this is a good spot for this pod. This pod is dug in fairly deep. It's gonna be really tricky for Jungle Cats to get this pod out of there. So we're at the 3/4 mark here. I don't think Jungle Cats are going to get this. This is going to be a tie, or something's got to give here. This is going to be a very tricky match. And this one just fell to Untitled with 1 minute left in the game and 1 more pod. So let's see how this plays out. Could be like an overtime in Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's see how Jungle Cats are doing to deal with this. We got a minute left to take the pod. Botangi moving in, and they have the pod. They're at the halfway mark. Looks like Untitled is moving in as hard as they can. Let's zoom down close to the action here and see. This pod is at 3/4 of the way in favor of Jungle Cats right now. Tricky Shot is going to be guarding it. We have another of Jungle Cat up top. Kalos is looking down. Nobody's got the rear. Untitled is far out. This is happening, folks. We are done. Jungle Cats takes this tournament, takes this match, and takes this tournament and 2 straight games in the grand finals. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Sorry it was such a long event. Like I said, you know, these things happen, but appreciate everybody who watched this whole event. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter, links on the stream. For sure, visit our parent site, enterthegamenexus.com. And of course, if you are on the forums, look for a follow-up post with all the details of the tournament and how it all planned out, or how it all played out later. So I want to say this is EvoKnight saying thank you. Thank you to my team. Thank you to everybody who came out and helped me with logistics. We're going to go get some ribs and prawns. And the rest of you guys, have a good night. And thanks for tuning in.